Hi, I'm Mary Gushin, and I want to welcome you to Mary's Kitchen and Garden. It's a beautiful morning here in East Tennessee. The birds are chirping, and I have picked some green tomatoes and a surprise eggplant from my garden. When we come back, I'm going to make fried green tomatoes and eggplant parmesan. So I've spent the last week talking to my friends about eggplant, and it's amazing to know that a lot of people don't like eggplant. And quite frankly, when I first had it, I didn't like it either. And I think one of the reasons is because of the skin of the eggplant. So when I cook eggplant, whether I'm grilling it on the grill or I'm making eggplant parmesan, I like to take the skin off of the eggplant, and that's very easy to do. This is my super duper eggplant from my garden, and it actually could have been a bit bigger if I would have let it stay on the stem a bit longer, but I was so afraid that we might have a freeze this week that I wanted to pick it and just put it in the fridge. So it's very easy to clean. You just want to move the leaf away and cut it, both sides. And of course, I'm going to put the ends in my compost pail. And it's very easy to cut off the skin. And I'm going to try to be as thin as I can, just like if you were paring an apple, because I want to get as much as I can from my eggplant. And the next thing that we're going to do is put the sliced eggplant with the store-bought that I had for the show into a baking dish and salt it. You want to salt it for about 15 minutes. Again, I think this is part of the problem with eggplant, why it has kind of a negative reputation, is that it can be bitter. And according to the experts, putting a little bit of salt on it will take away that bitterness. So let me get this out of the way. Put that in my compost pail. And then I'm going to slice it in 1/4 inch slices. It's just so much fun to be cutting an eggplant from my garden. I just can't tell you how excited I am because I've never had an eggplant. So it's just so neat. So I'm going to put that on top. And you can see it's actually a little bit different. It's not as seedy because it's younger. And I think it's going to taste great. So I'm going to salt it. And this will help with the bitterness. So now I'm going to take it over to my cooktop because we're going to bread it. And that's going to be a combination of egg, flour, and panko breadcrumbs. Those are the breadcrumbs that really make a nice crunch. For the eggplant parmesan, the first thing that you want to do is bread your eggplant and brown it in a cast iron skillet. I really recommend a cast iron skillet because it does such a better job with browning. So how this is done is that you take your eggplant that's already been salted and you put it into the flour first and then the egg. And then, like I said, I'm using the panko breadcrumbs, which just really give it a nice crunch. I've actually been told by my friends that cook that using the panko breadcrumbs is so much better than regular breadcrumbs. And I think that's because they have a coarser texture, which you can see as I'm putting the eggplant into the cast iron skillet. And hopefully this will help as far as with your kids too, because you might find that the kids like the crunch. From what I know, most kids do. I know my kids do. And it will help them to be more positive and want to try eggplant. So we're browning this. And then once we brown it, we are going to put it into a baking dish with tomato sauce and Parmesan cheese and mozzarella. I'm also going to use a little bit of goat cheese too for this recipe. I decided to do something a little bit different. I'm using canola oil in the cast iron skillet because canola oil does not burn, and I want to make sure that the eggplant gets nice and brown without burning. So you can hear it and you can see it sizzling. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. I was being careful because of filming. I didn't want to have it get too smoky. But you can see how nice that panko sticks to the eggplant, which I think makes a huge difference. So I'm going to rinse off my hands, turn this over, and when we come back, I'm going to put the eggplant parmesan together and it'll be ready for the oven.
Buy local, buy fresh at the Dixie Lee Farmers Market at Renaissance Farragut. Join us every Saturday morning from 9 to noon for locally grown produce, cheeses, herbs, potted plants, baked goods, pottery, handmade crafts, and more. This is our third season and the Dixie Lee Farmers Market is still making it easier for you to buy fresh locally grown produce and fresh local goods, all offered from Tennessee farmers and artisans. The Dixie Lee Farmers Market, 12740 Kingston Pike at Renaissance Farragut.
Spending a few minutes of your day preparing a meal for your family is really simple. I'm Jeffrey D'Alejandro, partner of the Crown and Goose in the Old City. I want to reach out to local folks and teach them how to cook a deliciously simple meal, how to choose good local products, and where to find them. Let's bring simplicity back into the kitchen. Join me every Friday at 3 for Marble City Eats only on KnoxIvy.com.
Thank you to MetroPulse readers everywhere for voting Knox Ivy the best new business for 2010. We love our role as an active partner in telling the world about the people, ideas, and activities that shape East Tennessee. Cheers!
Hi, I'm Mary Gushin, and I'd like to welcome you to my new show, Mary's Kitchen and Garden. This show is all about healthy eating, which means using ingredients from your garden and market that are fresh and in season. The recipes that I'll show you are easy to make and not too expensive. Everyone is on a budget, and I want to show you how to cook without using preservatives. Healthy, flavorful meals that you and your family will love. And remember, this is your show. Email me with your suggestions about cooking and gardening for the show, plus recipes that you would like me to try. Join me for Mary's Kitchen and Garden, only on KnoxIvy.com. I've browned the eggplant, and now what I'm going to do is put together the eggplant parmesan. The first step is to take some nice tomato sauce. This tomato sauce actually came to me from Naples Restaurant in Knoxville. I go to dinner there quite a bit, and I asked them, I said, can I have some of your tomato sauce? So they were so nice to give it to me. So all I'm doing is taking and putting the tomato sauce right on top of the breaded eggplant. A nice probably 3 or 4 tablespoons. And then I've got a combination of goat cheese and mozzarella cheese. I thought that would be a nice combination to try. I've put some pepper in it. As you know, I really like pepper. Give it a nice kick. And I'm going to take and put a good tablespoon on each of the eggplant circles. I can smell the basil. I've got basil that I just cut from the garden, and I'm going to take and put the basil on top of the goat cheese and mozzarella. And like I've done before, I have taken and put nice slices of the basil right on top. So much easier to cut with a scissors versus cutting with the knife. And I'm just kind of putting them all around. Let's give it one more chop. And this is mozzarella and ricotta and goat cheese. And then the last step is to take a little bit more of the tomato sauce. Not so much this time, just a little bit. And then I've got a combination of Italian cheeses, Asiago, Parmesan, and mozzarella. Just going to sprinkle those on top. And then I want to bake this for about a half an hour at 350. So when we come back, I'm going to show you how to make fried green tomatoes, which is my dad's recipe.
Tired of mulching every year? Use Magic Mulch instead. It's an eco-friendly alternative to traditional mulch that lasts for up to 10 years. Looks just like wood mulch and is odor-free. Get 10% off. Go to magicmulch.net right now.
Buy local. Buy fresh at the Dixie Lee Farmers Market at Renaissance Farragut. Join us every Saturday morning from 9 to noon for locally grown produce, cheeses, herbs, potted plants, baked goods, pottery, handmade crafts, and more. This is our third season, and the Dixie Lee Farmers Market is still making it easier for you to buy fresh locally grown produce and fresh local goods, all offered from Tennessee farmers and artisans. The Dixie Lee Farmers Market, 12740 Kingston Pike at Renaissance Farragut.
I'm Don Sproles.
And I'm Karen Sproles.
We are the owners of the Lunchbox Restaurants.
Our cooking here is a lot like you would do in your own home.
It's like having you in our living room, having you in our dining room.
We do everything from scratch. All of our baking, all of our cooking is done from scratch. We know what's in our product. Our catering services are rather unique in that we're totally customized. We've done dinners for 2 people that a husband will pick up and surprise his wife with and take home. And we've done 1,500 box breakfasts. We can produce a wonderful event regardless of what your budget is.
We have customers that we feed today that we fed June 3rd, 1981. I think we can take a great deal of satisfaction out of that. And we enjoy working together and have continued to do that all these years.
Want to host or produce your own show? Knox Ivy is the solution. Email info@knoxivy.com for more information.
While the eggplant parmesan is in the oven, I'd like to show you how I make fried green tomatoes. Even though I'm from up north, I've been eating fried green tomatoes ever since I can remember because my dad, who was an artist, a salesperson, and just a fun-loving guy, loved fried green tomatoes. My mom hated making fried green tomatoes because they're messy to make, but I'm okay with that. So my dad's been gone for about 5 years, but I toast him with this show because he was a great guy and I liked a lot of the things that he likes. I'm a salesperson too, and I love fried green tomatoes. So I've already cut some of them, but I'm gonna show you how to clean a fried green, or how to clean a green tomato. Basically, it's the same thing as cleaning a ripe tomato. So you just wanna take off any area that you feel is a little bit bruised. And what's nice about these green tomatoes is that they've been on the vine for probably about 3 weeks, and you can see they're nice and juicy, which means that the fried green tomatoes are going to be really good. I like to cut them very thin. From what I've seen down here, some people like to have them thicker, but I think cutting them thin, it really brings out the flavor of the green tomato. I don't use the ends. I'm going to put this in my compost bin, and this way it will be composted for next year as far as the season. So you can see that I have already cut some green tomatoes. And what's really neat here is that I have a couple of different kinds of green tomatoes. I've got some heirloom tomatoes and some regular tomatoes, and you can tell that by the color. So what we're going to do next is come over to the stove, and I'm just going to flour them up. Again, I know that you can do cornmeal and panko breadcrumbs, but I just really love just floured with some season in the flour, and just fry them up and eat them with the sauce that I'm going to show you. I'm covering both sides of the tomatoes with the flour. I've seasoned it with a lot of pepper and some Lowry salt, which is basically paprika, salt, and garlic powder. And you can start to hear the sizzle of the green tomatoes frying. This is the same type of oil, the canola oil, that I used with the eggplant parmesan, because it just works so much better than olive oil. I normally use olive oil for all of my cooking except when I'm doing any type of frying. And this is the way to do a fried dish without doing a deep frying dish, which obviously we know that deep frying is less healthy and added calories. So we're going to give that a second. I'm going to reach over and get a plate so that I can take it off of the skillet while you watch it. I have a plate here with a paper towel to absorb any of the excess oil, and it's on a medium heat. You want to be careful not to burn it. So it takes a couple of minutes to do each side, and that way the green tomato is really cooked well, which is what you want. So I'm going to check and see. This is the same cast iron skillet that we did the eggplant in. You can see a lot of the bits are left over from the eggplant, but I thought that's fine. We don't need to clean the skillet from one dish to the next, and they are really looking nice. Just a couple more seconds, I think that they'll be ready to turn. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit, and I'm going to get the rest of the tomatoes ready for the next batch. I'm going to make a horseradish and mayo, or excuse me, a horseradish and sour cream dip to go along with these tomatoes. What's nice is that you can also use this with any type of beef. It also goes well with the lamb, like we did the grass-fed lamb a couple of weeks ago. And it's just a nice way to jazz up sour cream. As you know, I like to take a recipe and really jazz it up and make it my own. And I have to give a shout out to my mom. Like I said before, my mom has been making fried green tomatoes for a really long time. She showed me how to make them and what my dad really likes. So here's to you, Mom, as far as the recipe and the way to do it, because it does take some skill. You want to be careful because you can see that those tomatoes are really frying right now, so it's ready to turn them. You want to be careful if you have kids. You want them to kind of stay away from the cast iron skillet because it is very hot and we don't want any problems. I'm going to turn it up a little bit because they're not quite browning. Turn that one back over.